My name is Andrés Otero. I am a transportation planning professional and personal blogger based in Durham, North Carolina. I share my experience living without a personal vehicle on my blog, Andy Talks Urbanism, which I've been writing for close to 4 years now. From the perspective of transportation systems, I grew up in a very transit-rich environment. I grew up in the Maryland suburbs of our nation's capital, which has ample metro, rail, and bus access. I was able to ride my bicycle around the neighborhood and into my downtown shopping center without too much worry. I feel like nowadays that's one of those, you probably wouldn't let your kids do that, but back then that's what we did. And even biking as far as the district sometimes. We'd bike into DC because it was in such close proximity. And for a kid, that's a really cool thing. But for adults, those open the door for social and economic opportunity where that's a commute mode. That saves hundreds of dollars a month on gas and registration and parking and all of these costs that are associated with car ownership. Believe it or not, there was a time that I did have my own car. It was a 2006 Honda CR-V with nearly 200,000 miles and no air conditioning. And I was sick of it. And after getting rid of it and living for a little while, I'll use the money from it to buy a new car. But in the meantime, I guess I can take the bus to work. That way of commuting actually worked really well for me. And that I was able to, because I came from a place of relative privilege, I didn't need this car and I was able to get around fine without it. I decided to commit to the bit, so to speak, to not buy a new car, to commute via my bicycle, via public transportation, walk around town to run my errands. And so I decided it was a great opportunity to write about my experience and share it with others so that they might feel empowered to make those decisions. I wrote an article around this time last year discussing the funding barriers that municipalities like Wilmington face when it comes to promoting walking and bicycling through safer infrastructure. So NCDOT is the North Carolina Department of Transportation. It flows right off the tongue once you've been writing about transportation in the state for a few years. And they are governed, among other laws, by the 2013 State Transportation Initiative, which prohibits funding for standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. And oftentimes you'll hear this referred to as the STIP. The STIP governs those funding barriers that promotes automobile infrastructure. When you're looking at it from a statewide perspective, that's why these projects, such as the I-77 toll lanes, which have garnered some news over in the Charlotte area, get pushed through in their process a lot more quickly than projects that prioritize alternative commuting modes, such as walking or bicycling. Projects that improve safety for bicyclists or pedestrians, projects like greenways and trails or bike lanes and sidewalks. Generally, NCDOT will prioritize the needs of motorists on those projects. One example where the STIP comes into play with Wilmington is the multi-use path proposal for the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge replacement. This would be an opportunity to connect folks in Brunswick County and other parts of the region into downtown Wilmington via modes other than a car. But like I mentioned earlier, it's got to tag on to the construction process as it relates to automobile infrastructure. In a lot of ways, it's a cultural factor. You could pinpoint the genesis of this being the birth of the automobile and Americans having a fierce sense of individualism that leads them to prefer driving their own car to walking or bicycling or taking public transportation, because we live in a state that is so car-centric, where owning a personal automobile is very closely tied to social and economic opportunity. Generally, those that are commuting via bicycle or other modes, whether they're walking to their destination, it's because they don't have a car. But this really affects everyone across the socioeconomic spectrum. This limits people's abilities to commute the way they might want to commute. It forces everyone into their own cars and all driving into the same downtown core during rush hour and then leaving at the end of the day. And that has profound impacts from an affordability standpoint, a time standpoint, that everyday car commuters are all forced onto the same roads and forced into the same system of autonormativity. I think a few advantageous elements of the Wilmington area is that it's much flatter than other parts of the state, and the climate is generally warmer and more welcoming to a bicycling culture. And as a result, that proverbial magic wand and could just build all of that infrastructure in a heartbeat that would generally look like bike lanes and greenways along major thoroughfares, but also the smaller things like lower speed limits, bringing in neighborhoods speed limits down from 35 to 25 miles an hour, or installing speed tables and other traffic calming measures, roundabouts, all of these different tools in an urban planner's kit, so to speak, where we can bring down vehicle speeds and make our neighborhoods, our thoroughfares, and downtown spaces. Every now and then, I get the comment that people like me that are transplants have this desire to quote unquote north our south, or DC our North Carolina. Don't New York my Durham, or whatever it may be. But if you look back into history, not that far, our cities here in North Carolina had robust streetcar networks and passenger rail, and yes, did have automobiles, but automobiles that were smaller, that were a more human speed. They weren't going 60 miles an hour in a matter of seconds. And so I wouldn't necessarily say we need to turn back the clock, but maybe we can look to a North Carolina of the past for building a transportation system that works for everyone, that has that inner city bus connection that was as robust as it once was, having a robust streetcar network, and having slower, safer streets that are more amenable for bicyclists and pedestrians, because those were very efficient and still are very efficient ways of moving people through the city and through regions. And I don't think that has anything to do with geography, but that is how people have gotten around in the past. And I don't see that as bringing down northern or mid-Atlantic ways of doing things down south. I think that's simply looking at a time where the car didn't dominate the transportation landscape. The Good Roads movement that started in North Carolina, that made its way through Congress in the turn of the century in terms of constructing roads, paving roads, that was initiated primarily by bicyclists who wanted to be able to travel from town to town on paved roads, not dirt roads. So we have the bicyclist community, what is now known as the League of American Bicyclists, to thank for that infrastructure that we now rely on with our personal automobiles. I know several folks since I started who, not that I influenced them necessarily, but I've met many folks since then who have decided to either sell their car, or they're a household and they've gone down to a one-car household, and they've been more curious about some of the alternate commuting methods that are available to them where the infrastructure allows, which unfortunately isn't a lot of places, but it's more than you might expect. I live about a 15-minute walk from downtown Durham, and I love doing that walk. Sometimes I'll bike it because that's a 5-minute bike ride, but I love the walk either into downtown Durham, or for folks that are familiar with the Durham Co-op Market, it's our food cooperative. I love the walk over there because it's even shorter. It's 10 minutes and I can grab my groceries and get my $5 barbecue sandwich with chips and a tea. I can live the authentically Southern experience in that regard, or is relatively close to it, without needing a car. It's been a really enriching opportunity to experience this place I now call home through a very different lens, where sometimes, the bus doesn't show up and I'm waiting at a bus stop in the rain for half an hour or more. And I think that's a great thing, and I think it's afforded me the opportunity to build community with others who are walking around town and seeing familiar faces over the years, instead of all of us being isolated in our vehicles.
Learn more about Shoresides at shoresides.org.